Hello, good evening. Welcome to the programme. Something at this time of the year about three wise men. We're doing our best. We've got two anyway. These two, not sure about me. And we thought it was a good time to take stock on the football season hereabouts. We're about halfway through. Look, I know it's 3 days before Christmas and you've got other things on your mind. We will try and make this fun. We could even do a travel show. I said that on Twitter this week. Definitely we could do a travel show with Rob Staton over there, with Joe Crann of the Sheffield Star, Rob of course of BBC Radio Sheffield. I've done my bit. I've been to Australia and New Zealand. He's been everywhere. Let's face it.
Not recently. We're not allowed to leave, are we?
Hey?
Not recently. We're not allowed to go anywhere.
Well, the last couple of years, no, but you're making up for it.
To be fair, and if we're doing comparisons, this little trip to Lapland takes a biscuit. That looked...
It was a great trip, and by the way, the best thing about it was going to see the big man, Father Christmas there, Alan, and the big man having a big picture of him meeting Lionel Messi in the entrance. And then as all the kids were like trying to get their letters to Santa and that's what they want for Christmas, and I'm kind of getting in the queue to ask him what it was like meeting Messi, and then I'm having a conversation with Father Christmas about the World Cup final, which was great. I almost asked him if he'd do an interview for Football Heaven.
And then you took a really bad penalty in the snow.
You did. I saw that. Yeah.
The boots let me down there. And by the way, Alan's being too humble saying there's two wise men here, because we know that Alan is the wisest.
Yeah, the wisest, and I mean, we've called you before the godfather of Sheffield.
That's Alex Miller. Alex Miller coined that. It was an offer I couldn't refuse, but
he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
No, well, thanks very much. Now you've said that, you can go, and thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah. No, it's been great travel. Lapland trip. I'd love to go there, and I'd love to go to many of the places you've been to. But of course, as we always get told on Twitter, stick to football. So we will. We dutifully will. And we are halfway through. And look, we're not in a bad place here. We're not in a bad place. Sheffield United, second in the Championship. Sheffield Wednesday, third in League One. And I worked out their collective record this season. This is Sheffield FC, if you like. Sorry, apologies to the world's oldest club. We sort of say Steel City FC for the Owls and the Blades. Played 45, won 25, drawn 12, lost 8. 87 points collectively. That's not, but we grumble, don't we? But hey, that's not bad, is it?
No, it's not bad at all. I think there's a real sense that, I mean, I personally would not like a double promotion, but there's a sense that it could really happen this season. Both teams are doing well, and it's interesting to see the way that people are reacting to the two seasons. I think because one side of the city seems to be a lot happier than the other.
Absolutely, but I suppose it's relative because one's in the Championship, and
of course, yeah.
One's in League One where they shouldn't be.
Well, right. So I mean, there's always going to be that difference. And look, there's only one acceptable conclusion to the season for Sheffield Wednesday, and that's automatic promotion. Even finishing third should be seen as a massive failure for me. I mean, when you've got a squad as good as that, Alan, and the expectation is that Sheffield Wednesday will get promotion, it's first or second. That's the only acceptable thing. Sheffield United fans at the start of the year, I think they would have been quite content with a tilt for the playoffs, possibly. And, if anything more than that, great. It's all positive. So there's a very different approach to it. And now Sheffield United, for me, there's Burnley and Sheffield United, a bit of a gap, then Watford, then a bigger gap and everybody else in the race for promotion there. For Wednesday, you've probably got Plymouth, Ipswich and Sheffield Wednesday fighting for 2 spots there. And I think Wednesday will win automatic promotion. But, I think that Wednesday fans, the ones who do want to be a little bit concerned, a little bit critical at times, you can kind of understand it. They're a division lower, they're desperate to go up, and their expectation should be top 2, and anything else is unacceptable, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think that sometimes they're a bit hasty, Joe. A couple of results, and automatically there's a big groundswell for Darren Moore to go, hang on. Somebody tweeted me in November saying, another season of underachievement. Hang on, we're not even halfway through it yet.
I do think, I think if you'd said to me at the start of the season, third place after this amount of time, and said, would you take it? I wouldn't have done, because I do think that Wednesday should be, like Rob said, Wednesday should be top 2. They're a team that, with the squad they've put together, with the work that Darren Moore's done, with obviously the experience of last season, that they're not fresh faced in this division anymore. Top 2 is everything this season, and I think anything else other than that would be a massive disappointment for everybody involved. And I mean, the players have said it themselves, haven't they? We spoke to them earlier in the season, and it was always, we're looking for the title. It wasn't even all-night promotion. A lot of them are looking to win the league. And I think that so for me, if you'd asked me then would I have taken it, I wouldn't. But we are in a position where we are only just a couple of wins away from the top two, and I think if Wednesday do get into those top two, I think it's going to be quite hard to get them out of it, because from what we've seen so far this season, even though they don't necessarily win every game, they don't lose too many either.
No. We know they're not playing well. We'll come to that in a minute. We'll also talk about the January transfer window and what the lads think might happen there and what might not happen. I think the most important thing is what might not happen. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they keep the status quo. We'll also talk about the Christmas programme and the work that players from both clubs do in the community. So I think it's really important to highlight that at this time of the year. But you said it, Joe, possibly a double promotion year. That's certainly where I'm looking. I actually think that will happen. And it would be the first time in nearly 30 years that's happened. 1983-84 was the previous time. Happened within my career, just about,
84, great year, 84. That was the year I was born, Alan, so there we go.
I was -6.
So I'll not ask you to comment too much about what happened then, but Sheffield United got promoted from what was then Division 3 under Ian Porterfield, and Wednesday climbed from Division 2 under a man that you know well in Howard Wilkinson. But it does seem to me that, you look back at that time and there was an element of stability in the two clubs and there was progression. Porterfield had been there for a couple of years. He'd won one promotion. Howard Wilkinson, that was his first season actually, but those two continued for another year or two, certainly Wilkinson more than that. Do you think that we can think that now, Darren Moore, 100 games is coming up, isn't it? The next one I think is his 100th.
Yeah,
is it at Fleetwood?
Yeah, I think so.
And Paul Heckingbottom over a year now at Sheffield United. Across the board, Rob, in football, in a city like this where so much is expected, that's quite rare, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I think that the two managers, I think that there is some stability there. Paul Heckingbottom, I think, is an incredibly impressive person, and I think the work that he's done is almost a little bit underrated in the last year. Alan, to come in after Slavisa Jokanovic, it didn't work out. I think you have to credit the club for making a very decisive decision. We're not going to stick with this. If we've made a mistake, we're going to move on. He's done a great job there, and I think you have to give him a tremendous amount of credit. And then for Darren Moore, taking over a football club that had got a points deduction, that was the cultural wasn't good at Hillsborough. I think he has turned it around in that regard. And it would be great to see them both win promotion and continue that stability. It's something that over the decades, Alan, that we've all sort of followed Sheffield football, there hasn't been enough stability, whether that's ownership, whether that's managers and even players. And both clubs could benefit from a stable 2, 3, 4 years to build something, because it always feels like the club's either on the up or on the down, and there's never just that. Could the teams maybe just have a bit of a boring sort of 3 or 4 years, but it'd be boring and good, and just be sort of stable and okay? That'd be nice.
Well, that's possible at Sheffield United, other than the possibility of a takeover, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Rob will have been involved in covering that story. But certainly there's more opportunity for stability at United, because if they were to miss out, I don't think they should miss out. I think they've got a great squad. And I think they should certainly be at absolute bare minimum top 6. But supposing they missed out narrowly, you wouldn't be looking at any upset in terms of the manager. The squad might have to change because there'll be repercussions budget-wise. Whereas at Wednesday, you can credit Darren Moore with all the kind of things that he's undoubtedly done and a force for good. But the bottom line, as Rob has said, and I totally agree, he's got to get them out with that squad. He's absolutely got to.
And I think that there were going to be serious questions asked, at the end of the season. If Wednesday aren't in the top 2, there will be questions asked, and rightly so. I think, you've got to, for all the stuff that's happened in the past, you've got to give a lot of credit to the chairman for the way he's handled things under Darren Moore. He seems to have taken a sort of a step back a little bit. He's given Darren everything. The technical team that he's built is probably the envy of most teams in League One. The squad definitely is. You look at the players he's got available, obviously the facilities Wednesday have got compared to other teams in the league as well, and they are. Darren's done an incredible job. they were a broken club, weren't they, when he came? There was so much going on.
There was a lot to do, but I'm hesitant to say he's done an incredible job. So he's got them going, you know, in the division. That
when I say that, sorry, I'm talking incredible in terms of the off the field stuff. I think there's obviously the promotion is the be all and end all of it. It all counts for nothing really if that's the case. But I think that you speak to Darren and the importance that he's put onto all the extracurricular stuff, you know, all the extra bits they've been doing, and I do think that Wednesday they were broken when he arrived, and he's gone a long way to fixing that. The transfer policy has changed completely, and that's a lot better now. All these kind of bits and pieces, and Darren said it before himself, this is a results business, and if you don't get there, you don't get there, and yeah, there will be certainly questions asked if Wednesday don't get promoted at the end of the season, and as I said, they should be.
Certainly the spirit behind the scenes and togetherness is certainly a great improvement. He's never better illustrated for me than last Saturday when Cameron Dawson came in, and we were all rooting for him. He's a good guy, he's a big character, and he stood up there and he had he won the point for Wednesday. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Not just the penalty save, but earlier saves. And the guy he displaced, the senior keeper, came on to congratulate him. Now, I think that depicted there and highlighted what Darren Moore's created. Certainly, it's a scenario I could not have anticipated seeing, shall we say, in previous years.
And I think you also have to. It's understandable why that atmosphere is, because you only have to spend 5 minutes with Darren Moore. You know, he's such a nice guy.
Yeah.
That everybody respects him, not just within the dressing room at Sheffield Wednesday, but across football. There's been numerous times when Joe and I and others have been stood in the freezing cold at Hillsborough on an away game, waiting for Darren to finish a conversation with somebody who he's very fond of.
Some kit man or
that he's previously worked with or has known before he
Yeah.
comes over and talks to the press, because he's an extremely likeable guy. And, you know, we were talking about it on our podcast this week, that really you're desperate for him to have some success, because he's the kind of bloke you want to root for within football, and I really hope he does it. But at the end of the day, we can only say it so many times, can't we? Sheffield Wednesday have to be back in the Championship next season. Everything depends on, it doesn't matter how they do it. No one's going to remember Oxford missing that pen and it finishing 0-0. No one's going to think about the performance at Exeter and scraping away a draw.
Yeah.
No one's going to think about the game against Shrewsbury at Hillsborough if, come May, they're having a town hall parade and lifting a trophy or toasting a promotion. That's all that matters. But if it doesn't happen, then it's a failure.
That can probably be said for both managers, right? I haven't dealt with Paul much, but he also seems like just a really nice bloke. You know,
He is very grounded.
And there are very few genuinely nice people in football. You know,
And we've got two of them here. We are thankful and grateful
It's
for
a
that.
tough industry to find good people, and you know, as much as it'd pay me to see Sheffield United go up, you know, it would be nice to see, you know, for Darren and for him, like, just nice people doing well. It's just, yeah.
It puts pressure on your job, though, doesn't it? You know, if United were to go up on Wednesday, it would actually add pressure to your job because of the demand all the time.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure.
You know, if the team isn't doing well, nobody's saying you're to blame or I'm to blame or Rob's to blame, but
You are a bit to blame.
Yeah. I did come back and they got relegated that season, so I do have to take some of the blame for that.
Well, you talk about Darren and the connections. Yeah, I've been down on freezing touchlines when people have shouted to him from the hospitality boxes up above, and a long-lost friend will be up there shouting and waving down to him.
There's a lot of things get shouted from those boxes, by the way. There was one time before a press conference, we had to go and tell some blokes to give it a rest.
I enjoyed that. You just marching up the south stand, telling some fan to keep it shut.
Well, very good. I wasn't there, though. I would have liked to have seen that. What I didn't like to see last Saturday, and you watch every game, I don't see every game, I thought the most alarming thing for me, and bear in mind this is on the end of a sequence of very unconvincing performances by Wednesday. The results have been better than the performances. That can't continue indefinitely. I just thought the players looked confused as to what the aim was last Saturday, what their roles were, what the system was, how they were going to play it. Now, that may be a false impression that I had, but if that is the case, and again, I'm supporting Darren Moore, but you have to look at the manager for that and say, you know, have you made too many changes too often? Are these guys confused? You know, suddenly it's a back four, it was a back three. What do you think?
I don't think you're absolutely right, Alan. I think that it's one of the legitimate complaints I think you can make of Darren Moore. and we've put that to him a number of times, is that he tinkers with his team quite a lot. Sometimes you would say justified, and sometimes not. And you sometimes sort of get there and you get handed a team sheet and you think, okay.
Sometimes.
Most weeks, and I don't really know what the formation is or where this player's going to play. We've seen games where Wednesday will play a back three and there's only one centre-half on the pitch. Dominic Iorfa playing as a right wing-back, he can get up and down, and he's played as a right-back, but you sort of see that and you think, OK, but then Liam Palmer's playing right centre-half. There's all sorts of different topics like that. I think there have been a couple of games recently. I didn't see the last game, but there have been games where I've thought, I'm not sure that everybody feels comfortable in this system. Maybe it's overthinking. Darren has often talked about horses for courses and changing a team to play the opponent. I'm never a big fan. Look, I'm not trying to tell that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'll never be a football manager. Darren Moore's forgotten more today about football than I'll ever know. But at the same time, I do think there's something to be said for this is who we are. This is who we're going to be. We've got the best squad in the division. We're going to go out there and you're going to deal with us, as opposed to we're going to come out every week and adjust our team to combat, let's be fair, a not great League One. I mean, I don't know if he'll do it, but are they going to play Fleetwood and Port Vale and pick a team to play them? Or should they just be going out there and saying, Fleetwood and Port Vale, you need to deal with us?
I think those are fair points. What do you say?
Yeah, I think there's mitigating circumstances with certain things, with injuries, all that kind of business. But
he sees the players in training, we don't.
No, I think that's the age-old thing with football managers, though, isn't it? We can say all we want from the outside, but we don't know what's going on. We don't know what's been said between people, why someone's left out. Also, because Darren will never say, if something's happened, he doesn't like to offer that forward with certain aspects of what goes on within football clubs. So, I think there are legitimate concerns. It's like, sometimes we'll sit in the press box before a game and we'll say, one of the opposition journalists will come up and say, can you just clarify how you guys line up today? And
I don't know.
We think it's this, but we're not entirely sure. But, I would just really like now, and again, it's probably oversimplistic, and like Rob, I'm not trying to tell Darren how to do his job by any stretch, but I would just like to see him get as many of our, good players on the pitch at once. We haven't seen too much of Josh Windass, Michael Smith, Lee Gregory all on the pitch at the same time. Again, injuries have played a part in that, but I just look at that attack and I just think, most League One teams would see those three starting and go, oh, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah. I think we've all got the same concerns, but in the end, the proof is in the pudding. If Darren gets promotion with his squad rotation, you've got to hold your hands up and say, yeah, OK, he's done it. But if he doesn't, it's a fair criticism, all this chopping and changing.
I think it all comes down to whether, I mentioned it before in the week, if this is the blip, every team has a blip in a season, and if this is Wednesday's blip and it is in the middle of an unbeaten run where
10 games.
They're just playing badly and still not losing, that's a pretty good blip to have. But if this is the sort of the bit that comes before the blip where, like you said earlier, where the performances are drying up, but so are the results, then it's a problem.
Yeah. Sheffield United, managers have got so many hurdles to negotiate during the course of a season, and it's going so well. I think they've won 6 out of 7? They've won the last 3. They're within touch of the leaders. They're 5 points clear of 3rd place. But now there's going to be a January transfer window. We'll talk in more depth about the window in part 2. We've got 5 minutes left of this. But also along comes a possible takeover, and this is not really what a manager wants. Better the devil you know, and I'm not saying he's the devil. Prince of Dullar, I think, has done a very good job, much better job than he did at the outset.
Yeah, I don't think a manager necessarily wants this, because he will get asked about it. Players might start to wonder what the future holds. But at the same time, I guess you could also look at it like this is something that Paul Heckingbottom had to deal with earlier in the year when Henry Maurice was trying to buy the club and he was asked about that, and they just got on with it and did a good job there. And I suppose the other thing is and who knows, we don't know a great deal about the people who are trying to buy Sheffield United, Alan, but let's say that they are mega rich, deep pockets. You could say, well, on the other hand, it might mean that someone like Iliman Ndiaye Sander Berge stays rather than goes, and if someone like Club Brugge come in and say, well, we will give you what you want for Sander Berge, they might actually be in a position to go, no, on your bike, because we're going to keep him because we want to get to the Premier League. We've got these big new owners coming in, and the new owners might be saying, don't sell him, he's going to be playing for us in the Premier League next year. So there's two ways of looking at it. I think the key thing is, and we said this when Henry Maurice was digging around, clarity, get it sorted. The best takeovers are the ones that you don't hear about week after week after the week. You just get a headline one day, it's done, the deal's done, someone's taken over, let's find out who that person is. The worst kind of takeovers are the ones that are protracted sagas that go on forever.
And also you wonder, I mean, Prince Abdullah's got good reasons, I think, for the benefit of the club as well as himself to be looking to sell. You know, he's not a mega wealthy person. Certainly is. He could buy us all a few drinks, couldn't he? But
he's round, apparently.
He's round, yeah. We don't see him very often. You know, I wonder to what extent, you know, where has that story come from? And we can all guess where that story's emanated. And I think that often gives you a clue as to what's going on. In whose interest is it that it's out there that Sheffield United have evidently he's accepted an offer? Well, I would say that's in the interests of the owner, because it could spark a further interest, you know.
Or maybe a nudge to say, look, get this over the line.
I think so. And if the one that you've apparently agreed a deal with is genuine, you wouldn't want it out there in any way, shape or form. You'd want it, like you've just said, you want it dead quiet and to just creep up on everybody unexpectedly. So, look, it might just be my suspicious mind, but I'm thinking, well, if it's that certain and it's that agreed, why has this news come out? I'm not saying where it's come from, but why is it come out?
It feels to me like a sort of finish your business or get off the pot.
It does.
To put it in the politest way possible on your show, Alan, and that was sort of my read on it immediately, which I suppose does create some concern, because you know you really just want it done. You know, but then who knows? Maybe this latest potential buyer will be able to do what Henry Maurice obviously wasn't able to do, and provide the money to get the takeover done. The other thing is you want to sell to the right person. You know, we've seen that, and we've seen other teams taken over the right. There was Sheffield Wednesday almost got taken over by somebody before Deshpon Chansiri came in, who already owned Atletico Madrid and Lens, and didn't have any money shortly after, and there was a bit of a lucky escape. So you don't want a situation where the wrong person takes over. So you've got to get it right. That can take time, but also you don't want it to drag on forever, do you?
And it looks like the EFL, well, they're going to have to be far more scrupulous now with an independent regulator, seemingly a certainty, got to apply a more rigorous checks on owners that they're capable of doing it, and their motives are good. So let's hope so. And certainly, you know, I've been quite critical of Prince Abdullah, but I think he deserves some credit for the way he's held the fort and kept such a good squad together, and hasn't sold players, which I think everybody feared would be the case. So wish him well for the future, and both clubs. We've got a minute just under left of part one. Whereabouts, and we're going to talk in part two in more depth about the transfer window and individual players, the games coming up, the community work. But where are we heading on Boxing Day, gents?
I'm off to Fleetwood.
Right.
That would be really cold. It could be warm everywhere in the country and still be cold in Fleetwood.
There's that horrible side wind that comes in as well, isn't there, at Fleetwood?
I've never been there, but I have been to Blackpool, and I know about the side wind. And
I'm doing Rotherham against Stoke.
Okay, Rotherham v Stoke. Rotherham going through a really sticky spell at the moment. Perhaps we'll bring the Millers in. And I'm at Bramall Lane for Sheffield United v Coventry, who are going quite well, considering all their difficulties, mostly off the field. Right, that's part one. That's half time. Off for a team talk. Back in 3 or 4 minutes. See you then.